morning, everybody. This is your host, Weston Swafford. And as we like to do here on the show, we just want to go ahead and thank you guys for tuning in time and time again. We really appreciate it. So what's on tap this morning? A couple weeks ago, we did a show that was about Ben Tillman and his legacy through Clemson. Just specifically about what's going on at Clemson and all of the conversation that has been getting sparked up about him. And we got some comments, after the show that day, mostly on Twitter. Some good, some of it was backlash. People, and I'm all for it. If we talk about something like this, I would love for anybody and everybody to voice their opinions on it. But the major one that people were asking was for me to do more of what I believe about this, about the conversation that is going on. We did some interviews. For those of you who weren't listening, we did some interviews with 3 people in the area, and believe they were all Clemson grads that did that on purpose. And we sat down. Well, we didn't sit down. They called into the show, and we talked about the name Tillman on specifically Tillman Hall at Clemson. Because if you're not aware, there are talks, every 10 or so years, it seems like, of a group that wants to rename that building because of Tillman's life and his legacy in South Carolina. We got some pretty mixed beliefs in there. We had one gentleman who wanted to keep it because of just Tillman's legacy at Clemson. We had one who was a little bit optimistic about it and a little bit pessimistic about it. And then we had another one who just wanted it completely gone. We do post our shows on YouTube as well. So if you would like to, I believe it was episode 201, that you can go back and listen to that. It's just about 15 minutes long, like they normally are. So as requested, I am going to give my opinion this morning to you guys about Tillman, what I believe should happen with it, because it's apparent that something needs to happen, because there's a fairly large group of people who aren't happy with the name, and I believe in compromise. I believe compromise is a very good thing. Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to be a historian here for a second, because I need you guys to understand who this man is. I know many of you listening probably have a good idea of who he is, but if you're either not from South Carolina or you didn't go to Clemson, I'm going to be a little bit of a historian here for a second. So I mentioned a book that if people were interested in it, in this topic. I mentioned a book, and I'm trying to get Carney to pull it up here. Yes, here it is. So the book name was Ben Tillman and the Reconstruction of White Supremacy. It's by Stephen Kantrowitz from the University of North Carolina Press. Back in, what year was that, Carney? Can you find out for us? 2000? Yeah, okay. So the book was published in 2000 by University of North Carolina Press. I mentioned that book because I've read snippets of it before that podcast about, 3 weeks ago, something like that. Because it's so the basically, to summarize what this book was about, it was about exactly what the title says. It's about his reconstruction of white supremacy. And so this author, Kantrowitz, is basically arguing that Tillman's involvement in South Carolina politics was not what many historical websites and just historical accounts say of him. Most of them, for the longest time, were saying that he was trying to reconstruct the Old South. What Kantrowitz is saying in this book is that he's actually not trying to reconstruct the old or resurrect the Old South. And what is the Old South, you may say? Well, the Old South in this context is just meaning Southern racism. So slavery, a big part of it, because they genuinely believed that whites were superior to blacks, and this is the way that things needed to be. So while he does say that is true, but there's a deeper meaning to his political background, and that it was not just him trying to reconstruct that. He was actually, according to him, reconstructing white supremacy, not the Old South. And I have quotes from the book quoting, "He was not nostalgic, he was revolutionary," end quote. So what he's saying is that he was trying to construct a new way of racial modernity. The beginning of it will kind of make you be like, this is really, like, this guy's name is really on our building, you know? So you can kind of see where these people are coming from that don't want his name on the building because of what he stood for. So that's basically the basis of what this book is about. And obviously he goes into, why he believes this with, many arguments and many points. And he says in it that it was the most evident in the 1895 South Carolina Constitution, and that Constitution was when he pushed for disenfranchising black voters, so that their votes, they either can't vote or the votes don't matter. Another quote from the book is, quote, "He turned the white man's republic into a working system," end quote. That was coming off of that 1895 South Carolina Constitution. So with that out of the way, just a little bit of a background of who he was, and I thought this was a great book about clarifying and putting the magnifying glass on just exactly what he actually did and what his motives were. All right, so we're going to move on to the meat of what was requested of me in today's show. So with that out of the way, the background of Tillman, clearly not enough know about him. First of all, I think I could probably go out and ask just like random Clemson students on campus of like, who was Tillman? Like, what is he known for? What did he actually do? Probably get a bunch of answers being like, oh, he had slaves, he was racist, things like that. But what did he actually do? Like, what was his role? I think maybe 80% of students couldn't tell me what he actually did. And I see that as a little bit of an issue, because if Clemson's most iconic building has such a controversial name, Clemson students need to understand why it's controversial, not just, oh, he was racist, I don't think that is a good thing that the university does or has going on, that the students don't really know exactly who he was. So my proposition to Clemson is that, so Clemson students have to take a class, every single Clemson student in order to graduate, called CU 1000. And basically what CU 1000 is it's trying to get students to, some of it is like good study habits and how to address emails and how to watch out for scammers and emails, like phishing and stuff like that. Some of it is on-campus stuff, like where to study, where to do these things. We have some discussions with other new students to try to meet and make new friends. And some of it is educational. about the university itself, although not much of it. So that class is, from my understanding, is designed to immerse Clemson students in its culture and the culture that Clemson has created and that has had for many years. It's trying to make sure that, or at least try to make students all be on the same page in terms of, respect and all the values that Clemson holds. And it would be very easy and very effective for Clemson if they just had a portion of that class be about Tillman, or maybe not specific, not only Tillman, but its founding fathers and who they actually were, not just their names, but who they actually were. Who was Thomas Green Clemson, and why is Tillman significant to Clemson? Him as a person, as well as, just let people know that this is the guy who granted permission for Clemson to be built. But not only that, but also who he was as a person historically. I think because back in 2015, a Clemson student, and this is on an article by Crystal Davis. The title of it is the issue of it is Diverse Issues in Higher Education. And this is volume 31, issue 1, posted on February 12th, 2015. And earlier that year, Clemson students, or I guess it was a Clemson student, posted a YouTube video about Tillman and how Clemson needs to not ignore its racial or racist pasts. Many of the buildings and all the old buildings in Clemson, many of them were built by African Americans, and stuff like that. So I would be on the same page as that guy. I think Clemson needs to not hide this and needs to just full out tell its students, hey, this is why we're here. This is how we got here. Maybe not why we're here, but this is how we got here. And this is our past, but this is our present. Make sure they understand that this is our present now. So that would be very beneficial. And in a section of this article, she mentions the YouTube video, which, quote, called on the school to acknowledge its slavery roots. Since then, both students and some faculty have asked the Board of Trustees to rename the building. The university has said it will respond to the remaining proposal this month. And that was back in February 2015. So, yeah, that's that. Hope that clears up some things, and I hope it sparks some conversation. I know that I'm going to get severe backlash like I did last time we did this. But any conversation is good conversation as long as it's constructive and genuine. So I would like to hear any and everything that you guys have to say. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and most of our conversations are on Twitter. I will give you that. So if you want to see what other people are saying as well, go check us out on Twitter, or I guess X is what it's called now. With that, I'm going to have to sign off here. Appreciate you guys for listening in this morning, and we'll catch you next time.